going to be handling steaming and shucking for us. So it's going to let Stan do a little bit more around the area, probably speaking to all his Rotary friends. So again, it's looks to be a big event. So if you can make it, if you can give a hand, it'd be much appreciated. One thing we're going to be working on as soon as Orchid Oyster is done, we really need to start looking at recruitment for some of our committees, mainly the projects committee and the public image committee. We really need to get those things up and off the ground. We probably want at least 2, maybe 3 persons per committee. It really has to do with our public image in the community. Extremely important that Rotary gets out there, that we get first flight out there. Granted, we are, 3 clubs in the area. Always going to be 3 Rotary clubs, 1 Rotary. So let's just keep that in mind. But it's important that we go ahead and continue pushing ourselves on social media, pushing ourselves through local projects, and making sure that people see what we do in the community, and it's a good thing in the community. See who Diane? Did you go to did Diane leave? Did anybody attend the health art health screening on Saturday? Tom?
No, it was canceled.
What was it? Was it canceled?
Yeah.
Okay. I know there was a question about it. Did you go on Monday?
I went Monday night, man, about 10, 15 migrants. Somebody said there was a total of 25 or 30. I was a scribe, which I had done before. It was interesting to me. First of all, we didn't find anybody that needed immediate help. Everybody seemed to be in fairly good shape. But one woman, they could not detect the pulse down here in her ankle. They kept looking. And finally, they brought over a instrument that they put on her ankle that they could hear, nothing still. So then they brought over the cup that we all used, put that on her ankle, and then they got it. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know what I noticed. I said, why did it take you so much time to find it? They said, because many times it's way up your leg. So I'm glad I went, and there was one other Rotarian that up in the
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
Again, I've got to leave. I got a business.
All right, Tom. Take care. The next Dare to Care screening is actually going to be on October 9th. Is there going to be one on the 2nd? I think it was an additional one on the 2nd that they were doing at COA. They are doing an additional one at COA on October 2nd. The next regular screening is October 9th. So I'm sure you'll get an email from me from Sandy Martin in regards to that. Let's see, Kearns. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Got a club anniversary next week? Club anniversary? Club anniversary? Yeah. Do you know how many years you've been a Rotarian for play?
Yeah, I guess it was 1993, but I think it was May.
26 years.
But I left for a couple of years, and then when I came back, my start date got different on that TV.
You're listed on that TV at 26 years.
Right.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Barbara has her club 2-year anniversary next week, so ready to go. Yeah. 50. Everybody get their tickets?
Many tickets.
Spots at $596.50. 41 cards remaining. Yes, sir, Eli.
Speaking of 50-50, interesting fact we learned last week, I believe 2 weeks ago at the board of directors meeting. The 50-50 that we do in this club is, I think, our 2nd largest fundraiser over the last couple of years. So everybody's participation in it, it's appreciated. It's wild how just a little bit every single week adds up. So thank you.
Jay, you want to pull some quick happy dollars?
Yeah, who's happy? Happy Mayor? You're singing the song, now you got your
I'm happy Lori made it to our meeting today. Drink whatever it was she drank before she got here.
There's plates there and everything. So.
Well, I went to the ear, nose, and throat specialist last
No, I
week,
know.
and she looked me over and then sent me across the street to the hospital for chest x-rays and sinus x-rays. And then I got an email that said that the chest x-rays was clear. The head x-ray showed there was nothing in it. And apparently at some point in time this summer, I had COVID, and now I have basically the long COVID syndrome type thing. Still repairing.
All right.
I thought that was good news anyway.
I'm happy. Thank you for the warm welcome to the club, and what a game with Ohio State beat the other day.
The Ohio State,
The Ohio State.
everybody happy over here? Stan, I know you're happy.
Yeah. My wife just had to pre-checked up for her knee replacement today. So October 11th, she gets a partial knee replacement. Yeah, covers that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Sergeant Arms, do you have anything?
Mr. President, I do. Actually, a couple of things. So thank you for sending the link to the Rotary page. I went online and looked at my information. And who was secretary when I joined? They inputted my phone number wrong. So I was able to actually go in, and that's probably why nobody calls me, is because you had the wrong number. So so go and look at your link and go in and see, make sure all your information is right, because like I said, it was interesting. And then I need to refer to somebody. I think our past president right here, Mr. Taylor, could answer a question for me. Do we fine people for coming in late?
No.
Do you not?
We are so happy to come in at all. Especially when they have to wait for a dog to wake up from that stage to get.
All right, the sympathy there. Okay, we'll let that ride. But we do have some people with no pins and no name tags on them. So, and those individuals probably know who they are. And so, they can, right here, feed a little, outside that, Mr. President, I'm good.
Thank you, sir. All right, it's time for a speaker this week. I'd like to introduce Tammy Woodward. She is a coordinator at the Outer Banks History Center. Personally, I'm very interested in learning about this. I had no idea that we had this sort of resource available to us on the Outer Banks. So, come on up, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining us today. All there?
It might have timed that. I know.
Might have.
I'll have a glare. You okay? So just please watch your step if you can. Okay, okay. Everybody see okay, right? Okay, so as John mentioned, my name is Tammy Woodward. I'm the director and the head archivist at the Outer Banks History Center. We are a regional archives and research library. A lot of people walk in the door thinking we have rides and we have, exhibits and things like that. We're not a theme park. That's Festival Park, our neighbor. But we, like I said, we're a regional archive and library. We're administered by the state archives in Raleigh. That's actually our parent. So we're considered the eastern branch of the state archives. There's actually a western branch, which is out in Asheville. We collect coastal history, they collect mountain history, and then you have Raleigh, the big state archives downtown. That's our daddy. We also fall under the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and provide public access to the historical and documentary materials relating to coastal North Carolina, and to serve as an accessible, service-oriented center for historical research and inquiry. We like to joke that if it's a county that touches a county that touches the ocean, we collect it. So, you know, that's kind of things walk in the door. We're geographically, you know, kind of a scope of our collecting policy. So it has to be related to the coast of North Carolina. So if you walk in the door with a map of Charleston, we're going to tell you no, and we'll help you find a proper home for it in Charleston. Our benefactor is David Stick. I don't know if you've ever heard of that name, but he's kind of a founding father of the Outer Banks, him and his father, Frank Stick. His collection basically became our origin back in the 1980s. In 1985, he negotiated with this, what was then the state's, I think it's like Archives and History Department, to take his collection out of his home. His entire house was an archive. His kitchen had records in it. His bathrooms had records in it. I mean, the archivist basically had to go into his home and collect everything out of the house and build the history center. So he's our origin collection. And since then, we have been collecting kind of on top of that from private donors. He was an author and historian. He published over a dozen coastal North Carolina history books. So we have all of his research, all of the material he collected. He collected everything North Carolina history. So over 10,000 rare books, maps, photographs, the papers of other people, the papers of other photographers, like their photography collections. So his, you know, beautiful collection basically became our origin. Not only the Outer Banks History Center, but he helped found the local community foundation. He helped bring us public libraries. We wouldn't have public libraries without him. He helped establish the Wright Memorial Museum, Cape Hatteras National Seashore. So like I said, he's kind of like a founder and developer. And you can probably recognize that man right there. We have lots of Andy Griffith scattered throughout our collections. Because he too was kind of in that little group of people that were trying to develop the Outer Banks. We are located at Roanoke Island Festival Park. So just across from the Manio waterfront, you know, where all the little shops and restaurants are, just go to the little bridge. And there's free parking in Festival Park, so you can, you know, come to the Outer Banks History Center and not have to worry about parking unless it's a concert day. But Festival Park is a separate state entity. They're also part of the state, so we're just neighbors. We have a reading room that is dedicated to basically, this is where you come and look at our materials. So we're a non-circulating library and our archives cannot leave the building without permission from the powers that be. So you have to come and view our materials. I would say the smallest percentage of our materials are digitized, which means they're available online. We have a Flickr page where you can look at some of our more popular photograph collections. But for the most part, you have to be there physically in order to view our materials. And that's why we have the reading room. When you come in, we basically register you with the state archives. So you'll need a photo ID. We'll have you sign our rules. We do have reading room rules. Things like, you know, you're not going to lick your finger when you turn the page of an 18th century map. Or you're not going to put your elbows on the map. So things like that. So we have you sign our rules and then you can view our materials. Anybody can view them. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a historian. We get reporters in, we get high school students, we get a little bit of everybody. So we don't keep this stuff for ourselves. We keep it for you. So anybody can come and look at it. This is our stack room. Like I mentioned, we're a closed stack library, which means you can't browse anything. You have to kind of come in and tell us what you're looking for. Maybe tell us a topic you're looking for, like if you're going to research Chickamauga life-saving statesman, or you're researching the Wright brothers, or whatever you're researching, we can help you either based on the topic, so we can search in our catalog of the material, or you might come in like some historians do, and they're like, I want box 1, the folder 2, I want this collection box 3. It just depends on how, how much homework you do ahead of time. But you can see here, our materials are stored in acid-free containers. So when we process a collection, what we call it is basically when we catalog all the materials, we put them in acid-free containers. We want them to live for several hundred years. We put them in the appropriate environment. This is our book collection. We have some of the hanging artwork. And then these are our flat files because we have a very large map collection. So if you're looking for a map of coastal Carolina, our oldest item is actually a map. We have a 16th century Spanish map of Florida before the Roanoke voyages even happened. And it shows, the coast of North Carolina. Well, it wasn't called North Carolina, Florida did. But so that's our flat files. And we keep this environment in as pristine, like archival environment as we can. So it's 62 degrees. It's relative humidity between 35 and 40% at all times. It has a halon fire suppression system, which is not water-based. So it's kind of like almost like a big vault, basically. So that's our baby. That's why we all wear cardigans. We want the records to be happy, so the staff can bundle up. So that's our stacks. In terms of our services, obviously we provide reference assistance just like you would in the library. You have access to our collections in the reading room, but we also do image reproduction. So if you were to come in and you find a cool photo or a map or something that you want to reproduce and hang on your wall, we can do that for you, and it's at a minimal cost. It's about $4 a scan and $5 a foot to print. So you can print a nice historic map and hang on your wall for 19 bucks. So it's cheap artwork. There are beach cottages and restaurants all over the Outer Banks that have our stuff on their walls. And that doesn't violate copyright. That's considered fair use as long as you don't sell it. And I'll talk about copyright in a second. But we have a large format printer that will print one side up to 44 inches. So 36 by 24 map is easy. We do it all the time. I even had a state trooper come in the other day who wanted to decorate the station at the Nag's Head with historic photos of law enforcement on the beach. So you never know. I mean, that's a different service that people don't think we do. We also do oral history interviews. The picture here is about a month ago. Our oral historian, we actually have a full-time oral historian that works out of Raleigh. His name's John Warren. He travels all over the state reporting oral histories. He came to the Outer Banks to do 2 interviews for us. So that's George Henderson. He's doing an interview about Manio Airport. He grew up on the airport. His father was the very first director of the airport, and they're getting ready to celebrate their 80th anniversary. So we did an oral history with him just to see what it was like from the 1940s when the airport started shortly after the end of World War II. So that's another, we can do them in person or virtual. Some people can't get out of their houses, but if you know anybody that really needs to share their story, please let us know and we can schedule an oral history. The state archives would keep the recording in perpetuity, but we always give the donor a copy as well, so you would have it for your family. Okay, so what kind of stuff do we collect? So on the left, we have all of our sort of the original material, so primary, and then we also collect secondary sources. Manuscript collections includes things like scrapbooks, diaries, private collections, people's papers, like their correspondence, maybe war letters, things like that. Photographs, we have all the way from daguerreotypes, the earliest known photograph through tintypes and cyanotypes, and we have 35 millimeter slides, we have negatives, all the way up to 21st century digital files, so or digital, basically, that come in the door. So everything photographed. Maps, like I mentioned, we have a lot of original maps, even just hand-drawn maps of property lines. So, if you're looking for doing like a property history, we might have a map of the actual lot. We have a lot of that down, like on Hatteras Island. Works of art, we don't collect these anymore, but we do still have some that came in the door when we first opened in 1989. Oral history, like I mentioned, we have over 500 reported oral histories. Some are even between like David Stick and Andy Griffith talking about, you know, oh my God, what have we done? Because they created a monster, you know, kind of lamenting about the overdevelopment of the Outer Banks and things like that. Those are really interesting to listen to. We also have oral histories of like the old accents and like the Hatteras language, you know, things like that. Public records, we have some from the state archives on microfilm, so birth registers, marriage registers, things like that, deeds. We do have a small microfilm collection. So everything on the left, we own the copyright to, so we can grant you permission to publish, you know, we can provide access to everything. Everything on your right, we do not own the copyright to. So our book collection, like I mentioned, I think we're up to about 12,000 monographs of just local history, coastal North Carolina history. We have periodicals, so historical societies, newsletters, we have local publications, Carolina magazines, you know, things like that. Ephemera is basically like temporary publications. So like this would be considered ephemera, like a brochure, a menu, or I mean, anything kind of temporary, like a high school commencement program. So we have lots and lots of ephemera, both original and published. Clippings files, we have a lot of private collections that they collect clippings about an event. So like maybe it's the Ash Wednesday storm, or they collect clippings about, you know, the Vietnam War, you know, something like that. We have a lot of clippings. And of course, newspapers, we collect the physical copy of all of the local newspapers. So Coastland Times, they're not searchable. You have to actually know what date you're looking for. But if you use the Dare County Public Library's search database to find the newspaper you want, because they have a searchable database that are digitized, you can always come to us and look at the physical paper. And I still collect them. I get the Coastland Times in the mail. I get the mileposts, all of those. We are archiving them. And then vertical files, every archive has a vertical file. They're basically just subject files of things that we don't own the copyright to. So it might be clippings about, you know, the Aidlet family. It might be clippings about the Ash Wednesday storm, or, you know, pirates, you know, or something like that, where we have a bunch of research that's aggregated, but it's not, we don't really own the copyright. It's not archival. Okay, so what kind of topics do we have? We're really heavy in discovery and early exploration. These are mostly maps and monographs. So, you know, maps and books. We have a lot on the local Native Americans, a lot on early exploration of the English exploration. Probably everything that's ever been published about the Lost Colony, we have a copy that you can use. And like I said, a lot of early maps. Shipwrecks, lighthouses, U.S. Life-Saving Service. Like with the U.S. Life-Saving Service, we have copies of the local wreck reports, the original wreck reports for shipwrecks. We have payroll records of all the keepers and the lifesavers, so the surfmen. So those are kind of unique things. Those are very heavily used. They're, you know, we pull those about once a month. Also state national parks, so like Jockey's Ridge, the development of the national parks. There is a sister archive. The National Park Service has an archive at Fort Raleigh, so they have their records. But a lot of our materials do touch on our local parks, just with the development and their creation and photographs, things like that. The Lost Colony Outdoor Drama, we have the Roanoke Island Historical Association's records, and we have a lot of different collections that touch on it. The Albert Quentin Bell papers I'm going to tell you about in a minute, that we have the original site plans when they built Waterside Theater after the first time it burned down. Wright Brothers, we have mostly book collections. They're the Wright Brothers papers are actually at Wright State University in Ohio, but we do have a lot of collections that kind of touch on the building of the memorial, photographs of the beings built, you know, things like that. So a little bit on the Wright Brothers. Fishing, oh my goodness, if you need a picture of someone holding a fish, we have easily 10,000 pictures. Starting in about the 1920s, 1930s, very heavy in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then all the way through Drew Wilson and, you know, I'd say 20 teens. He was still taking pictures of people catching fish with the, you know, the game fish hanging, you know, with the little sign saying how much they weigh. easily 10,000 pictures of fish, but strangely enough, we get researchers in that are studying fisheries that want to measure, they found a way to measure in a photograph how big the fish was. Like they use the person's head or they use something in the photo to measure the fish. And a lot of these people that are, these organizations that are tracking fisheries will come in and look at those pictures and measure the fish because they think the catches are getting smaller throughout, the century. So yeah, I'm glad we kept all those pictures of fish because people actually use them. We collect the entire collections and kind of like the life's work of local photographers. Meekins is very early. Aycock Brown was probably 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And then Drew Wilson picks up in the 80s, 90s, 2000. He still brings me photos now. The great thing about our photograph collections is they kind of abut each other. So where one leaves off, the other one picks up. So we pretty much have a comprehensive photographic history of the Outer Banks and areas around us, beginning in the early 20th century. So if you need a photograph of something, we probably have it. We also collect organizational records, including one Rotary Club. A lot of these organizations, like Elizabeth and Gardens, for instance, they're still in operation. So the reason they usually donate to us is they don't have the proper environment to keep their records. For instance, right now I'm talking to the Friends of Jockey's Ridge to get their records because they're keeping it in a non-climate controlled garage, and that's just not a safe place for records. So what we do is we have a relationship with these organizations where they just bring us an accrual, like maybe every 2 years or so. They'll just bring us their fresh set of records, their minutes, their photographs, things like that, and we add it to their collection. But the good thing is at least they're kept in a climate controlled environment and they're accessible to the public. Genealogy and family history. We have a lot of county histories that are published, marriage indexes, cemetery records. We've had a couple of professional genealogists in the area donate their papers or after their family donate them after they've passed, which is great because they've already done all the work for you. Published genealogies. So if you published, a genealogy on, say, like the one I got the other day was the Aidlet family in Currituck, that helps the next person. So we do take published genealogies, and we have tons of local history books about like the timber industry, the moonshine industry, anything going on here that might help you with genealogy if your family member was in that business. Personal papers, that's kind of our bread and butter. Someone can donate like your whole family's papers, or it might be an individual. If they were a noted author or something of that nature, they'll donate their collection. In some cases, it's just like a family genealogy. Lily Jacob Baum is one of my favorite collections. She married her cousin. That's why her name is Baum. She was a Baum and married a Baum. But she was born in Back Bay, Virginia, and then moved to Currituck, and where she married, like I said, she married her cousin. They ran a commercial fishing business and a hunt club. So that's good hunt club history, that's good fishing history. And she kept 48 diaries, one for every year. They're beautiful little red leather diaries, and she kept 48 from 1900 to 1948. And we have all 48 of them. So I've already had one author come in and read those diaries and write a novel based on her life. So yeah, I love her little collection. It's so cute. And even scientific collections. We have the papers of notable scientists in the area. We have the Francis Regallo papers. He basically invented hang gliding. The NASA Parawing that he worked on with NASA, it was scrapped at the last minute and they used a parachute instead to land the space shuttle. But we have all of his NASA research. It's not at NASA. The Stanley Ricks papers, he actually just brought me 11 more boxes this morning to add to his collection. He's a marine geologist. It's all about like coastal erosion, sea level rise, everything. That's all his collection. He's lived in this area since 1963 doing his research through ECSU, and we have his papers. Robert Dolan is very similar. And then Albert Quentin Bell, he was a forester, he's still alive. He's a forester for West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company, and he managed 300,000 acres of North Carolina woodlands that touched Dare County, Carroll County, and I think Washington County. But he has a massive photograph collection of wildlife, wildflowers, you know, things, just wildfires, you know, all surrounding like kind of the inner base, just inside Manio. So that's a great, oh, and then strangely enough, he was the house sitter for Andy Griffith. And so there's Christmas cards in there from Andy Griffith. There's a lot of pictures. There's a lot of party pictures of Andy Griffith with a lot of girls. But those are, I'm sure he, you know, Albert Quinton, though, when he donated it, he, you know, he gave us kind of a caveat, like there's some juicy pictures in there. They took trips to Vegas together. But there, yeah, there's Christmas cards in there from Andy Griffith. So what's new? So we have a brand new collection that just got cataloged by my summer intern. It's called the Charles D. Evans Papers. He's the Charles D. Evans of Evans Kellogg, the law firm in Manio, if you're familiar with it. It is a beautiful, gigantic collection of maps and architectural drawings. And so if you're looking for the original plans to Duckwood's Golf Course, Whalehead, a lot of the developments in the area, the neighborhood flats, it is a gorgeous collection, and it is now finally cataloged and processed and rehoused, and it's open for research. So that's the Evans Papers. Ellen Amadon Williams, she was one of my genealogists. She just recently passed away, but she was part of the Hyde County Historical and Genealogical Society, and she did the genealogy of most of the families through Hyde County, and so I have all her research. The Family Research Society Northeastern North Carolina, that was operating out of Elizabeth City, but it went defunct. It was run by volunteers, and it just, you know, people started retiring, and so they spread out their collections. So we got the kind of the coastal North Carolina piece. Flat Top House Project Records. They recently did a project of all the flat tops and southern shores to survey them, do brand new, you know, architectural drawings like blueprints, and take photographs to basically get them on the historical register. But we have that, basically that collection when they did that project. More genealogy collections. One is a good example of the Putnam Family Papers. I just finished cataloging that. If you are any of these last names in Manio, I have a picture of your ancestor because it's basically the history of Manio families. It's a little bit of everybody, or I should say everybody's grandparents. Okay, so how do I find all of this cool stuff? So we have a catalog. If you just Google Outer Banks History Center or go to the State Archives, their website, up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see basically it's a search catalog, and then you'll click search DOC or doc, and that's our digital online catalog. And then type in a keyword, type in a last name, you know, type in anything you want to search. You can just fish, you know, you can type in anything. And then you'll bring up all of the records, but just make sure on the left-hand side you click Outer Banks History Center, because otherwise you'll see things in Raleigh and in Asheville. So you want to make sure if you're coming to see us, you want to just look at our collection. But we also have a Facebook page, so you can follow us. We like to post, you know, cool historic photographs and things like that. And then we have like I mentioned, a Flickr page that's in your handout and on the bookmarks and things like that. So, and I've got more if you didn't get one. But you know, so you can just kind of see what we're doing. I'll post when I have a new collection, research and stuff like that. We have 3 full-time staff, so we're pretty small. A couple of volunteers. We're always looking for new volunteers. If you like old stuff, old photographs and things like that. But yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Very impressive.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah.
Come see it.
Tammy, thank you very much. That was
Yeah.
So how long have you been director?
January.
Since January?
I do.
So you walked right on into it. So was everything already organized, or did you have to?
No, we have a backlog, but my predecessor did pretty well. So I've walked into worse. I've been the first archivist in a couple of cases.
Tammy, thank you. You're always welcome to Rotary. Appreciate you coming by. Back to see us. All right, Lori, you want to pull some 50/50?
That was really cool. We enjoyed that.
If you don't mind, if you do the honor, if you want to draw out one of those. And I want to set that to the side. Oh, okay. And then we'll let you draw two more, set that to the side, and then call that first one out. 420690.
At least Carl's not here.
That's not there. At least Carl's not here.
I got it.
Right there, all right.
Oh, now, yeah, of course.
You won the last time.
Well, Jay's not drawing for him. Let's see how this goes.
I sort of won last time.
Yeah.
You like to pass it out?
Oh, my.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh.
You didn't want that view.
Oh, you want me?
I know, it will be published, not a big deal.
All right, we go another week.
We'll get that archived.
Yeah. Oh, there's another two.
Okay, 733. 733?
Okay. Where? Right there. There you go, darling. And then
671.
It's 71, I got that. Really?
Well, welcome back.
This about does it for today's meeting. Next week, we're gonna have a club assembly. Mostly what we're gonna be talking about is Lincoln Oyster, volunteer assignments, which we've got pretty much laid out already, so we'll go over that next week. Probably talk a little bit about some other club business, but mostly Lincoln Oyster. So again, thank you, visitors. Ben, good to see you. Tammy, thank you so much. What a great program.
Yay.
Looking forward to attending that myself. So, if we could end our meeting with a four-way test of the things we think,
Say or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build? And will it define
we'll close with the Rotary motto.
service about self?
Thank you all.